established a series of leagues and blood... Right. The professional league was formed. A cabal of the most violent and skilled warriors in no...
Unreal was a landmark achievement for Epic Games, a fantastic single-player experience that had multiplayer components which did not work all that well. So Epic Games wanted to fix it. They wanted to make an expansion for Unreal that would be called Tournament Edition. It would add better netcode, more multiplayer modes, more maps, more of everything. A lot more. So much more that it took them 18 months to actually make it, and it became its own separate game. Not just any game. A legend. Unreal Tournament. This game was big. And I mean big. If you take any multiplayer shooter and put it next to Unreal Tournament, you just realize how big it is. While a lot of multiplayer shooters, even ones launched in the same year like Quake 3, Arena, would limit themselves to having deathmatch and I'm guessing more deathmatch. I don't remember it having a lot of modes in the original version. Unreal Tournament had a ton of stuff. And I mean a ton. Yeah, you can say that the mechanics weren't probably as fine-tuned as super-duper itsy-bitsy, incredibly tight as Quake 3's had, because, you know, Quake 3 only did one thing, and it did it well. Also, it had the ability to draw circles in its engine, and this one didn't. But Unreal Tournament offered you options. It offered you choices. It offered you what is, without a doubt, probably the first single player, like actually authentically believable single player experience derived from a solely multiplayer game. The tournament, the grand tournament, Unreal Tournament. It may sound strange, but even though this is a multiplayer expansion to Unreal that became its own game, it has a surprisingly well fleshed out single player mode. And it's done so mostly through a simple structure. You start out in deathmatch. You win a couple of matches, okay. You unlock team deathmatch, congratulations, you have a team now. And you get to lead it. It can be Thunder Crash, it can be the Iron Guard, it can be those Necros Fader people, I forgot their names. It can be the guys that didn't wear shirts. And all throughout, that simple structure tells kind of its own story. Well, truthfully, the character descriptions, the team descriptions, the map descriptions, they tell the story, and the structure is meant as a way of progression through that story. The first map is your transport ship, the one that's taking you to the Leandria. Like, I forgot where it's taking you, but that's the idea of it. That's the setup. And it works. It actually sort of takes you into its world. And the end game is, of course, you going one-on-one with San, the reigning champion, on his ship, which was converted into an arena. Now, what makes this single-player mode believable? I mean, it is just a succession of multiplayer battle with bots, is the bots. They have names, they have personalities, they have an AI that is capable of defeating you. Well, unless you're really good. In that case, you're playing this as practice mode, you don't have anything to worry about. But that AI feels genuinely like a living entity, not as just someone that shoots at you and then dies. They talk, they taunt, they can take orders, they respond to orders, and they have kind of their own sort of preferences when it comes to weapons, their own personalities a bit, tiny bit. It's really more fleshed out in Unreal Tournament 2004, but still, this is where it began. An AI that actually works. It works well enough to make Unreal Tournament viable as a single player experience, and you cannot say that for just about any other multiplayer FPS. You ever played Counter-Strike with bots? It's boring as hell. The bots just can't do much. Quake as well. It's not really a rewarding experience, but in Unreal Tournament it is. It actually is. Oh sure, when it comes to team play, yeah, the bots tend to be a bit dumb because they can't coordinate properly. But there's so many game modes where coordination isn't really necessary. Like domination, yeah, the bots could coordinate to take you down faster to hold the points, but they can still do that as individuals. Assault, also requires a large amount of coordination because you have to protect each and every separate point, each and every objective, and the enemy team has to attack them, which can often be done through multiple ways. And yet, because individually they are still clever enough to know what to do, it works. Unreal Tournament beat out its opposition through sheer diversity. Oh sure, you couldn't play as a floating eyeball like you could in Quake, I believe, but you could play as an ollie workout, but that's not the diversity I'm referring to. It's what the game offered you. It had a ton of maps from the get-go. It got a ton more maps in the free expansions. It had a buttload of weapons. The weapons of Unreal Tournament are second to Gunman Chronicles, and that's it. They all have multiple firing modes that make them so goddamn fun to use. And they're not just... The thing I really hate about modern shooters mostly is that the majority of them have pew-pew weapons, you know, bullets. Just boring bullets. This one will let you shoot discs that will fly out, hit a wall, ricochet, hit another wall, ricochet, hit another wall, ricochet, and behead the person in the room behind you. Or they could explode. Even the game's shotgun, which wasn't a simple shotgun, it was a flak cannon that shot molten metal, jagged pieces of molten metal, and a really big piece of metal that had a smiley face on it and exploded on impact. Yeah, even that had a bounce in its primary attack. The debris would just bounce off walls and would kill people around corners. This ties a bit to what I said about the great FPS divide. Unreal Tournament was a game that let you predict a shot, like a non-linear shot. Something that curved, something that bent, something that zigzagged, or you could just fire randomly into an opening and hope that you would kill someone, because odds are you were gonna kill someone. If someone was after you, randomly shooting behind you from time to time or over a wall or somewhere would probably kill someone, and that's what made it so goddamn fun. Because even though that would happen to you, like you would get killed from nowhere, you could do the same to everyone else because all the weapons were just so goddamn useful. You could throw a plasma ball that would explode and kill everyone in its initial area of effect. You had a Redeemer that could hunt down people around the map and blow up in their face and take about a quarter of the map with it. Sometimes the whole map if it was a small one. Probably the most boring weapon in the game was the minigun, because all it could do was fire and fire faster. Even a pistol was more interesting than that. You could fire normally, faster, or get two of them and fire like a maniac. And hey, if shooting people wasn't your thing, okay, no problem. Place blobs of goo, of gelatinous, acidic, exploding goo everywhere and wait. They weren't mines in the traditional sense, but they did act like mines. And that's what made them so fun, that people would just walk over them and explode. Now sure, when it came to methods of dying, the enemies wouldn't turn into skeletons like green gooey skeletons like they would in Quake if you electrocuted them, but it still got the same satisfaction. And like I said, there were a lot of game modes. You had Domination, you had Assault, you had Capture the Flag, you had the standard Deathmatch, you had Team Deathmatch, and you had Last Man Standing. In this game mode, you all started with every weapon, full ammo, full health, full armor, and instead of getting kills, you lost lives. I remember playing matches with bots with 999 lives, like 999 lives. What would usually happen is that because you could set an adaptive skill level, I'd start off well and then the bots would get the god mode and then we'd struggle a bit and then they gang up on me, and at the end there would only be me and two other bots and the bots would gang up on me. And when they killed me, what would happen is that the bots did not know what to do because their default AI in Last Man Standing when they're low on lives is to hide. And they would both hide and no one would win. That's probably that, and not being well suited for team play, for communication in a team, was probably the only flaw in the AI of the bots in Unreal Tournament. This game was fantastic to look at back in the day. You probably wouldn't say it's so now. I mean, it's been 17 years. It will actually be 17 years to the day on November 30th. But back then, this was a spectacle. This was something that you did not see a lot in video games. Like I said, shortly after Quake 3 came out, and it also had beautiful graphics and it could, render circles, but everything tended to be a bit red, brown, gray, the Quake graphic style. But this one, Unreal Tournament had a plethora of graphic styles and locations. You had a galleon, like a galleon on a sea. You had spaceships. You had an asteroid sitting above Earth. You could see Earth spinning around. You had castles. You had so much variety. You had pyramids. You had insanity. This game offered you a visual spectacle. It offered you the world and more. It was never boring. It was never visually boring. You even had a submarine pen. You had a World War II Normandy assault type situation in a sci-fi game that takes place in the far future, where what you're doing is a televised sport. And I buy it. I mean, it made it believable for me, honestly. It didn't take me out of the experience. It seemed plausible in its own way, until Unreal Tournament 3 tried to explain what the flag is, and quite frankly, I feel that this generator just... no, please don't try to give me details. You can just buy the concept on the surface. It works like that. It works better like that. It's a goofy blood sport thing. Don't try to explain it in detail, because in detail this will never work. The first time I played this game was in the demo version form. A demo, by the way, which still works today, and it still has servers. Like, people still host servers for the demo version of Unreal Tournament, whereas Electronic Arts shuts down servers for games that are 3 years old, because why wouldn't they? The demo version ran for me on a Pentium 1, it had 133 MHz, it had 24 megs of RAM, it had no sound card, which was actually a good thing because once I added a sound card, it was kind of obvious I needed 32 megs of RAM to actually run it on 300 by 200 at about 15 frames a second. But it worked. That's the important bit. It worked. Even on that so horrible resolution, it was playable for the most part. And it just got me hooked from that very moment. Now sure, Unreal Tournament isn't as big as it used to be. Neither is Quake. Oh, neither is Quake. Doom made a comeback though. Maybe Quake will too. And hey, there is a new Unreal Tournament game in open development. You can play it right now. They're trying to make it a bit more like the original, so maybe it will turn out to be okay. But even if it doesn't, the original, like the old Unreal Tournament Classic, the Gold Edition, the Super Duper Complete Edition, is something that you can find right now on GOG for the low price of, well, since it's a sale, like it's a big sale, you can get the original Unreal Tournament for just €2.30 right now on GOG. And there's no reason why you wouldn't. So go play it, go have fun, and go see where all those announcer packs you know from, the ones you keep seeing in games like Counter-Strike originated. Because this game was the first to have that announcer, like that announcer that just said, ultra kill, monster kill, double kill, headshot, that one. Again, this game sold its Steam very well. It made it believable. It made that corny idea of, well, it's a blood sport in the future organized by a corporation. It made it believable through its presentation, through its gameplay, through its simple structure. You'd be surprised how many games fail to do that now. So many games fail to make anything believable. They fail hard. But this one didn't, so go play it. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process. Or you could consider buying my book called Tale of Doom. Volume 1 is out now and available for just $2. And as always, if you thought it was horrible, you know where to find me and complain about it.